My postgraduate journey taught me the relevance of research methodologies, and I'm sure that a lot of students are going through difficulties understanding or even identifying methodologies for their work. So in this video, I'm explaining one of the common methodologies for doing practical theology work and missiology work, and I believe that you are going to love it. The channel still remains Biblical Research and Innovation Network for Africa, Brain for Africa, or BRAINFA. If you have not already subscribed, I do encourage you to subscribe to the channel and to share the link and also hit the notification bell so that you will have updates when I upload new videos. The methodology that I'm talking about in this video is Osmer's methodology or Osmer's model. It is a methodology that was developed and popularized by American theologian called Richard R. Osmer, and so it has come to be known as the Osmer's approach. He developed this methodology with the congregation in mind. So he developed this methodology for studying congregation, and it has become very popular as far as practical theology and missiology is concerned. Osmer's model is built around 4 key questions. And the questions are: 1. What is going on in the given context? 2. Why is this going on? 3. What ought to be going on? And 4. How might we respond? These are the 4 key questions around which Osmer builds his methodology. Based on these questions, he then proposes 4 key tasks. And the tasks are as follows. We have the descriptive empirical task, we have the interpretive task, we have the normative task, and finally we have the pragmatic task, each corresponding to one of the questions that I just raised. This approach is evangelical in nature in the sense that it places the Bible at the center. In my view, it is very useful for guiding African church leaders and congregations to study the complexities in the local church setting. However, because it requires one to do extensive empirical study, it may be expensive, and it is not always that one may have the resources to use this methodology, which requires elaborate or extensive empirical or field study. Here are the methodological steps. Step 1 corresponds to the question, what is going on in this context? This step is referred to as the descriptive phase, that is the present situation. In this step, the researcher endeavors to find out the current situation as far as the subject matter is concerned. So, for example, if the youth are not attending church these days, then the first step is to find out the situation. What data do we have to show that they are not attending church services these days? How serious is the issue? And what is the situation on the ground? So over here, you don't attempt to understand why they are not attending church, because that is for the next step. You only try to find out what is currently happening. So that is the descriptive phase. Describe the situation as it is, based on empirical data that you have gathered through such methods as interviews, questionnaire, focus group discussion, or participant observation, and so on and so forth. The task is expected to help one understand the complexity of the situation and to identify patterns, trends, and themes as far as the current situation is concerned. The second step is the interpretive phase, that is questioning the present situation. So when we found out that church attendance with regards to the youth has decreased, the question as to why that is the situation will be asked in the next step. You just describe it as it is in the first step, and in the second step you find out reasons why the situation is the way it is. So here the motivation is to find out the reasons, the causes, the motivation behind what you have discovered as the current situation. This may be done by the use of empirical method, So as you interview the people, as you observe, as you interact with them, you find out both the current situation as it is and why things are the way they are. However, you may also employ available literature on the subject to also supplement what you find from the field. This step, according to Osmer, helps the researcher to understand the perspectives, values, and beliefs of the people involved and how they shape the situation, how the belief system, how the perspectives, how the values of the people shape the situation that has been observed earlier. Osmer refers to this task as seek wisdom. It requires wisdom to be able to understand and appreciate the reasons behind what you have observed in step 1. The third step, which he refers to as the normative task or phase, is also referred to as the preferred situation or the preferred scenario. So this is the situation, this is the reason for the situation, and what is the ideal or the preferred scenario? What does God want the situation to look like? So this is the phase where the Bible is studied, selected verses related to the topic, in this case attendance to church with regards to the youth. Such passages are selected and studied to have a biblical theology on the subject matter. Therefore, one cannot use Osmer's approach without making reference to the Bible. And this is very important for us as evangelicals who hold a high view of the Bible. Osmer refers to this task as prophetic discernment. So one has to discern through the studies to know where God wants us to be or where we need to get to. According to Osmer, this prophetic discernment employs 3 approaches to uncover God's guidance for the present situation. And these approaches are: first, theological interpretation; then second, ethical reflection; and third, good practice. So we have theological reflection, we have ethical reflection, and good practice. These 3 are the approaches that we use in studying the text and arriving at what God wants us to be or what God is saying about the situation. The final step is the pragmatic phase. That is the practical suggestion. The question we ask there is, how might we respond? Based on the outcomes of the first 3 phases, we now come out with strategies that we can use to respond to the situation based on what God is saying, what the situation is, and the reason behind the current situation, so that we can get to where God wants us to get to. It has to do with determining actions, decisions, and policies for individuals, for the church, for the society, for the nation, in order that we will be able to move towards God's direction to get to the preferred situation or the preferred scenario. This phase helps one to think creatively. So this is where the creativity and innovative ideas that the researcher may have to come in. So you bring on board your creativity and innovation to be able to give policy direction as to what needs to be done, what action plan is to be drawn, who are involved, and who are the players in that policy plan, so that we can get to where God wants us to get to. So the above are the 4 phases or stages in Osmer's approach to theological research. But before ending this video, I would like to give an illustration of how we can get research questions out of this methodological model. My topic for illustration is assessing the impact of the gospel on the socio-economic development of the Zion Church in South Africa. And my main question is this: how does the gospel affect the socio-economic development of the Zion Church in South Africa? Now, based on Osmer's 4 steps, I'm going to ask 4 questions, and each of them will correspond to one of them. You remember the first question: what is the current situation? Here, the question that corresponds to that descriptive phase will be: what is the current situation regarding the influence of the gospel on the socio-economic development of the Zion Church in South Africa? So it's just a modification of that question. The second question, which corresponds to the interpretive stage, where we asked, why is this going on, would then be, why are things the way they are regarding the influence of the gospel on the socio-economic development of the Zion Church in South Africa? Then you remember the third phase, which was the preferred scenario, and we asked what ought to be the case. In other words, what does the Bible teach about the subject matter? And this is how the question will be asked. What does the Bible teach about how the gospel ought to impact the receiver's socio-economic development? So the key word, socio-economic development, the Zion Church in South Africa, and those ones, we just build the questions around them using the format that we have in the 4 questions that are related to the Osmer's model. Finally, we have that question that is asking us, how do we respond, or how do we get there? And this is how that question will be. What pragmatic steps can be taken to let the gospel impact the Zion Church in South Africa the way it should be? So these are 4 questions that we can ask. Each of them will be dealt with in a chapter, so that if we add chapter 1, which is introduction, and the last chapter, which is the conclusion to it, we have 6 chapters and the thesis is done. I'm sure that you have gained some insight. If you want to read more on this, I do entreat you to read the book whose bibliography comes at the end of the video. May God richly bless you till we meet again. Bye for now.